Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I loaded this up and I was like, I have no memory of this place. It was just almost exactly 24 hours ago that I was working on this, and I don't remember what we were doing. I have a vague memory at this point that we were pretty happy with the performance of this rocket. We just wanted a little bit more of a push off the pad, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss in some radial decouplers out over here, and we want to have snapping on for that. I'm just going to put them about here, and then the main question we need to ask is, what size of engine are we going for here? Do we want Pollexes? Do we want Clydesdales? Do we want teeny tiny little fleas? I think we need more than the flea. So we're probably going to end up going with the Pollexes. I wonder what the cost difference is. Pollexes are 6,000, Clydesdales are 18,500. That is a lot cheaper for Pollexes. So I'm going to toss in some Pollexes here. And I'm going to drop this down. We could put fuel on top of them. And I kind of want to do that. So I want to put, like, that or so, and then maybe an additional amount of fuel like that. I'm not sure what this timing is going to end up looking like, but we can do something akin to that. And if that's the case, then I kind of want to take this off of here, separate it out like that, and move the radial decouplers up to here, attaching it up this way, and moving this substantially down to be about there, and then attaching the Pollexes in down below like that. Then what we can do is we can just grab this whole thing with the move tool, and I want to just sneak it down a little bit to about there. Okay, then we can run fuel lines in, and those fuel lines are, of course, going to run like this. There we go, and then as far as strut work goes, we shouldn't need very much for this. I'm just going to run a strut up here, although I doubt it's strictly speaking necessary. I'm going to run a strut like that, and then down here, a strut is absolutely necessary, and I'm going to put it in about there. That'll give us more oomph off the pad and give us a longer burn time on our liquid-fueled engines. It is more cost, and the main question now is, what's the burn, like the fuel burn ratio between our Pollex and these FL tanks? I want the FL tanks to be burned out before the Pollexes are, and I suspect they will be. So, I mean, we're going to have 5 mainsails pulling from those, so they should probably burn out first. We can see these aren't enough to lift this on their own, and that's not surprising. So we're going to do something like this. We shouldn't have an issue with these detaching. With the detachment force being up here, they should just pop off. They should, like, unfold like a flower and just move away, and we'll have plenty of thrust to weight, in theory. Well, I say plenty of thrust to weight. It'll be mediocre thrust to weight. So if we check in here, 1.35, that did basically double our thrust to weight, and, okay, our thrust to weight before was like 1.16, right? So I'm not saying that we're at 2.32. No, we're at 1.35. I'm talking about doubling our thrust to weight above 1.0, right? 1.0 is just equalizing gravity. So let's give this a test. I want to track how our fuel burn ratios go and separation events, but I think this may well get graduated up. This will be a simulation at first in case we have issues with our fuel drain rate. But this may well get graduated up from... I'm just thinking. I'd like to double this. So that's a TX440. And this is just for visuals. I want to double that to be an FL TX880 then, that would be. Or I guess a TX900. Like that. Yeah. Something like that. And that's just so this is almost exactly the same height as this stack. Okay, so we'll run it like this. I want to see how that fuel drain rate looks. It should be fine. I'm like 45% sure about that. If this flight goes okay, we'll graduate it up to a real flight so that we don't have to do this multiple times as a bit of a time save. But if it doesn't go okay, we're fine to revert this. This is a simulation. But we're getting really, really, really close to having a fully unsimulated launch. So, this is probably going to get us to where we need to go. We're going to throttle up, we're going to go into surface up, and let's see how this goes. We're watching for structural issues, we're watching for fuel drain rate issues, and I want to just pin these open so we can keep an eye on that. Aerodynamics should not be a significant issue. And let's see how this goes. So yeah, we're not going to have a problem with the fuel drain rate. This fuel is draining very, very rapidly. So this is going to be drained out long before these SRBs are. That's good. Our thrust to weight is substantially higher off the pad, and we'll have longer burn times as well because of this extra fuel. So that looks good, and the SRBs will carry that weight no problem. So let's just hop over to maneuver. Hang on. Where are we? There we go. This is the mode I wanted to be in. Okay. I think I was just, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking down here. This is the mode we want to be in. I want to keep an eye on that apoapsis. We're going to take it up to about 20 kilometers on the apoapsis, but yeah, you can see these side tanks completely burned out of liquid fuel at this time, and that's looking good. We're now drawing from these tanks, and yeah, we're not going to have an issue with that. So I think our timing is going to be, we're going to go straight up until these SRBs fall off, and then we're going to go over to prograde, is the idea. And this is rotated kind of oddly. We could rotate it so that we're not yawing up this way, but it really doesn't matter. So that's absolutely fine. We'll go straight up until the SRBs detach, and then we'll head to prograde. That would be good timing, I think, ish. Good timing, ish. We'll see how good of timing that ends up being. We're up to 15 kilometers on the apoapsis, and it's gonna be close. Once we're clear on the SRBs, then we should be ready to jettison this. So this is gonna be a fair amount of vertical speed. A little over on that 20 kilometer apoapsis. That's fine. Okay. Now we're going to head over to prograde and see how that goes. Seems relatively stable. And we're just going to burn pure prograde here for a while. We're going to need to go to horizontal velocity up eventually. But we've got a good amount of fuel on these center tanks here, and you can see our thrust to weight is 1.7 at this time. So it's still a little on the low side, but we have a lot of vertical speed here. And what are we targeting for our overall apoapsis height? Well, as long as we're out of the atmosphere, I think that's relatively fine. I'm going to target going to 70 kilometers apoapsis before we head over to horizontal velocity up, which we're going to do. So we're currently at 58, 59, 60, looking good. 64, and horizontal velocity up. Let's see if that's too much of a turn. No, looks good. So we're just going to burn completely horizontally here at this point. And you can see our time to apoapsis is going down. So this might be a little too aggressive on the horizontal burn. We shall see. We've only got about 20 seconds of burn time with these side cores here. And I am a little concerned being this far over with our ejection here. But the Sepratrons should take care of that, is the idea. So we'll fire those in just a moment here. We've got about 5 more seconds here. 3, 2, 1, and 0. Cool. And off we go. We've definitely got a bit of wiggle going on here. We just need to gimbal limit this guy. That's fine. And we're not in a great attitude right now, but we'll work our way back over. We are in vacuum now. Okay, so I'm keeping an eye on that time to apoapsis. Our apoapsis is going up here. We need to burn quite significantly to make it into orbit, but it's looking good. We're getting the oscillation mostly under control. I'm now remembering that I had mentioned that we probably wanted to have a strut from here to here, and that would have been very useful, for sure. But we only have to deal with this for a little while longer. So I think this is fine. I don't have a huge issue with it. We should extend our solar panels, because we're going to need some power. Did we ever put an antenna on this thing? We did not. We could do a servicing mission to do that. That would be reasonably fine, but it would take time. We could just revert it and put it back because this is technically still simulated. That is an option. And that would allow us to address this minor issue here as well. This is going to make orbit. This is 1000% going to make orbit at this time. I can see 1 minute 9 seconds on this apoapsis, but I'm just looking at the amount of DV we have in comparison to our current orbital speed, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to make it to orbit here. So that's absolutely A-okay. An antenna on this is a necessity. We do have a built-in antenna on here, but we're going to need a longer range one. So that's okay. We can put one in without any real problems. There are multiple places we could put one. But I do want to address this oscillation here. So I'm going to pull this back one final time. This should be the final return to a vehicle assembly. So we're going to bring this back, and that means that I'm pretty comfortable saying that next launch will be unsimulated. So we need to put an antenna on this. I'm just going to slap that in right about here, or maybe I'll just like angle it a bit, kind of like that. Sure, that'll be fine. So something along the lines of this. And then what else do we need on this? Well, we need struts that are running from these tanks here to these tanks here. So that's going to be struts that come in. I'm just going to duplicate this one and quad couple this, running in like that specifically. That should solidify that up, but even if it doesn't, it's manageable. Okay, let's go ahead and launch this thing in a real unsimulated launch at this point. This is, I think all of the problems have been addressed at this moment. At least all of the problems that need to be addressed have been addressed. The real question is, are we going to want to do a refuel of this thing? Because we're going to have the capacity to do that, but do we need to do it? Is a question that we need to ask. I suspect we have enough. So let's put this in surface up, and as soon as we're loaded in, we'll get on out of here. Up we go, and we can see that, yeah, we're going to be burning this for a fair number of seconds, no doubt about that. And our stability on this should be significantly better now. So I'm quite comfortable with this thing at this point. It's a bit of a monstrosity, to be sure, but it's our monstrosity. So that seems great. I can't say I'm shocked about the speed at which we pull fuel out of this. We could probably expand this if we really wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, the real question at this point is, do we want to refuel this? We can. We have the capacity to refuel it, but I think we'll get to orbit with a good amount of fuel. I don't think it'll be necessary. And of course, getting these gantries off of here is going to be interesting. No doubt about that. That's going to be very interesting. I'm not 100% certain on how we're going to do that one yet. It requires 2 simultaneous releases of docking points, right? So that's going to be quite a thing. So we've got about 12 seconds left at this point, and we're of course going to take this to orbital prograde fairly quickly. Checking in on our apoapsis here, it's looking good. About 5 seconds remaining on our SRBs. We're going to detach those and head over to prograde as soon as we're clear of them. I was a little late in detaching them last time because I had my mouse over the smart ASS, and the spacebar does not actually, like, the spacebar event gets captured by MechJeb if that happens, which is interesting. But there we go. We're clear. Heading to prograde. Excellent. So that's going to cost us a little bit less DV because I was slightly faster on that. So that's great. And at this point, I kind of want to go all the way over to 45 degrees and just hold there for a little bit instead of sitting at prograde. I want to be a little bit more aggressive with this turn. So we're just going to park it right at 45 degrees, and we're going to hold here for a little bit. In fact, I'm seeing that we're still going up in our time to apoapsis, so I'm going to continue to be a little bit more aggressive here. And we're just making our way over towards horizontal velocity up at this point. We're still getting some vertical speed. I'm noticing T-minus 1 minute 9 seconds, so still increasing there. We've got a good amount of burn time here, so that seems fine. I just don't want to be too aggressive on this, because our thrust to weight in that last stage isn't great. So I'm going to park us here for right now, and we'll make our way to horizontal velocity up soon enough. We've still got about another 30 seconds of burn time here at this much higher thrust to weight. So that looks good, but I do want to bring that apoapsis up a little bit higher. But this is getting us a good amount of horizontal speed, which is exactly what we need. Remember, being in orbit isn't about going up. It's about going sideways fast. So there's a 70-kilometer apoapsis. Let's take this to horizontal velocity up as of now. So that looks good, and we should be at a much, much better position as far as our horizontal speed goes. And we just need to keep punching up that apoapsis. 1 minute, 30 seconds? Yeah, that seems fine. Those separatrons are so loud. This is far better on the stability. So that looks good. And look at how much those are tumbling now. Yeah, we absolutely expect that. They should be tumbling like that. That is the goal. But we're much, much better on the oscillation, which will also help our thrust, not necessarily our thrust to weight, but we'll waste less DV on maneuvers. So that's wonderful. We're very happy about that. We're not in vacuum yet. We're getting there. Apoapsis is currently at 80 kilometers, which is high enough. I think we'll target about 120, though, because we're probably going to need some extra burn time here. A slightly higher orbit will do the trick there. But let's get our solar panels extended. As of now, we are in vacuum. Beautiful. So we'll get those extended. That'll be absolutely fine. We have to keep in mind we only have the panels up here, so that's going to be interesting. But there should be no orientation, I think, here where all of our panels are obscured. So that should be good, in theory. So our orbital insertion here is going very well. And again, this has been an unsimulated launch this entire time. So we're very glad that this is going well, because this would be an expensive failure. No doubt about that. We've got about 90 seconds of burn time left on this, too. We've got actually quite a lot of fuel in there. I like it. I'm just looking at the amount of fuel that we've got here, and I'm thinking we should not need a refueling mission here. We're very, very close to orbital velocity, although we still need to burn a little bit more. Remember, we're targeting an apoapsis of 120. We'll get there very, very soon. We have an apoapsis of 90 right now, but look at how quickly that time to apoapsis is increasing. This is looking absolutely great. It's just going to start going up exponentially. So that is 100 on the apoapsis now. And we're looking for 120 at this point. 100 would be good enough. But there's 120. We have a periapsis of 40, so this is going to be very, very little DV to push us up into orbit. We'll just wait until the apoapsis, circularize that right on up at about 120. Doesn't really matter, and we'll lock to this node. How slowly do we turn? The answer is very. But I see us perceptibly turning without even turning on physics warp. That's actually surprisingly quick. There's a lot of mass here, remember. Okay, let's physics warp for now, because we got to get this turn done. We've got about 7 minutes in which to do it. It's plenty of time. It's not a concern. But we're definitely turning pretty slowly. Now we're beginning to build up a little bit of momentum. But once we get in orbit, we can take all the time we need. It's not going to be a problem. And we'll even have a little bit of delta V left over. This is like going to be close to half of the delta V amount that we need to exit the Kerbal system. Not quite half, but pretty close. So this is looking great at this point. I'm rather comfortable with this. We've got 4.5 more minutes here, and we're almost completed with this turn. So that looks great. My plan is to link this up with the fuel production module, and we'll just keep that together, drive it over to the core, link up the fuel production module to the core, then unlink this, and link it in its correct position, which is 90 degrees from there. All without getting rid of the sky crane. Then we get rid of the sky crane, which could be exciting. But we get rid of the sky crane then, and at that point, everything should be good to go, in theory. Let's warp forward a little bit. We've still got 3 minutes until this burn, so we had lots of time for that turn. I love it. And we're going to be getting out of here very, very, very shortly. So we've got about 1 minute to go here. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Much better on the stability. So much better. Okay, this is good enough. We're in a good enough orbit. So put this in kill rot, and with us in this orbit now, we can just head out from anywhere, pretty much. So this is going to be a nice pro-grade burn. We'll just start the turn here while we're working on this, and that'll be fine. So we're obviously going to be punching out through our fuel that we have in this tank, right? That's absolutely understood. This burn looks fine. I don't suppose we can just go for a transfer burn right now. That would be insane if we could. Yeah, no. This is not the timing for that. But if we were to change the timing somewhat, what does that look like? Okay, that's a little much. Hang on, what was that? I think it's just moving around too much. Yeah, the timing isn't there. That's absolutely fine. We'll just pull this back, and this is going to be right about here. That's perfect. We'll go with that, and we're still making our way over to this node, which will be in about 9 minutes. Let's get this turn completed, and as you can see, we get almost, but not quite half of this burn out of this tank, and that's great. I really love to see that. I love to see extra burn or extra fuel in tanks over what they're intended for. That's always a good sign. I don't think we'll need any refuel on this. I don't even know where we'd put the fuel. I guess we'd put the fuel here, but that seems kind of wasteful. Okay, we are currently heading in a bit of the wrong trajectory here. We were overshooting up this direction, so I killed our physics and then started turning on over again. Now we're headed towards the node. Perfect. We've still got about 6 minutes to get there. We probably would have gotten there even without the physics kill, so it's all good. Okay, we're basically in position for the burn now. Let's warp forward a couple of minutes. There we go. About 1 minute to go, and 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Autosave, awkward timing, mark. Okay, so I definitely see a bit of oscillation on this mainsail. I'm going to gimbal limit it down. This will be fine. So that looks good. I just don't want to see that oscillation happening. And this will push us through almost half of this burn. We've still got another 20 seconds of burn time here, but of course the back half of this burn is going to be at a much lower thrust to weight and a much higher efficiency. This is at 310 right now. This is going to be at 350 seconds of specific impulse. So that is going to be much, much better. I didn't change that. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to move this guy down. Move this guy here. I'm glad I remembered to check this. Okay. There we go. That's more like it. Okay, so next up, we're going to be ejecting these tanks, then these tanks, and that is accurate. Okay, looks good. So this is going to be a fairly lengthy burn time here. We'll just physics warp our way through this. It's going to be about 3.5 minutes to get that done. But it is about time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to make our way on over to Duna with all of these extra fuel tanks. And there should be no real problem here. We'll probably do an inclination change, and then we'll do our standard home and transfer, and it'll all be good. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I was hoping that this burn would be done by the time I finished talking about that, but we've still got another 1.5 minutes on it, so let's just go through a little bit here. 160, 150, fantastic. About 100 meters per second to go. And we can definitely see we're drifting off of that prograde node quite a bit. That's understood. It's interesting that this is basically right on the target node, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, we've got about 15 meters per second left to burn here. And we're probably going to call this good enough here. Yeah, that's probably good enough. Let's just check in on this. Yep, absolutely fine. Okay, now it's time for the credits to roll. A very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Roarnaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.